All right, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another day of SaberSim's DFS office hours. Today is Thursday, August 21st of 2025. Looking ahead here, we had a 4-game League of Legends slate get underway earlier today. We also had golf tee off earlier this morning. We had a 10-match tennis slate earlier this morning. There was a 6-game early MLB main slate. So a ton of action already underway. We have a 4-game WNBA slate and then a 3-game night slate on tap for the rest of the evening. But for those of you who are new here, welcome. My name is Andrew. I'm one of the coaches over here at SaberSim. This is a show where we go over how to use the SaberSim app, answer any and all DFS related questions. Get your questions in one of 3 ways here. First off, send us an email, support@sabersim.com. Second, post it live in the YouTube chat. Third way, post it in the office hours channel in our Discord server. If you're not in our Discord and want to get access to that channel, there's a link in the description of this video. You also get access to our sim alert channels, individual sport channels, and you get access to the rest of the SaberSim team. Just can't say enough good things about the Discord. But with that said, we do this show Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern, and then we do this show on Saturdays at 12:30 p.m. Eastern. So tune in any one of those days, get your questions answered. All right, let's get SaberSim pulled up here. We actually had a couple questions come in before the show. We're actually going to go a little bit out of order because it makes sense to answer them in a different order here. So the first question that we're going to tackle says, how do I ensure that 6 pitchers in a 9-contest slate get as evenly divided as possible throughout the slate? Please give me specific ways to achieve this prior to build or after. If both apply, please tell me how. Thanks. You can use my DK 6:15 p.m. night slate for guinea pig purposes. Okay, so I think what this user wants, if I'm interpreting this correctly, is that there are 6 pitchers on this night slate. They basically want to play them all evenly. Okay. That's my guess. And it looks like the 6 pitchers are Gray, Gill, Giolito, Young, Boyle, and Alexander. All right. So the way I would do this, okay, it's like, let's say I'm going to build, 5,000 lineups. So there are 2 pitchers per DK lineup, right? So you effectively have 200% to work with, right? So I need 200% pitcher exposure. I'm just going to divide that by 6. So it's about 33% per pitcher. Okay. So what I would do is I would just set a number a little bit higher than that to all of these pitchers. And I'm just going to remove some of these lower projected guys so we don't have to look at them. So what I would do is I would just set like a max exposure of like 40% to all of them. That way the builder has like a tiny bit of flexibility. Okay, so we're going to go 40% to each pitcher here. Let's build a little less lineups because this might, the more restrictions, the more time this is going to take. So I'm just going to do 1,500. And then we're going to click build here. So let's see how this works out. All right. So lineups are building, so that's good. It means we didn't break anything. Okay, so lineups got built. We have the 1,500 here. The contest sim is going to run. It's going to diversify, and then we'll go from there. All right, cool. So here, right, the builder has met our 40% max exposure to every pitcher. The actual like equal percentage was like 33%. So you could mess around with this like a little bit, okay, well, hey, maybe Alexander is like a little too low and I want to boost him, right? So you can like set now a minimum exposure for Alexander to try and bring him a little bit closer to the other pitchers. A lot of these 5 of them are between 32% and 40%, which is like the range that we're shooting for. So there's going to be some amount of like tinkering that goes on here. Maybe you try 40. Okay, 40 worked without any errors. Maybe I go down to 36, and then you run it again, right? And then you try out the new level, and then you see like, hey, where does the builder kind of start? How close to the actual percent do I have to get before the builder starts to have some trouble, right? So then you could do it that way. But min or max exposures before your build are going to be your best option here. Now, the one thing I do want to say about this, just because I feel like I have to, playing pitchers equally doesn't exactly mean you're playing pitchers equally, if that makes sense, right? So the reason for that is like, okay, if I have, say we had like the actual 33%, right? Okay, if I have 33% of all these guys, well, now I am my highest leverage is now on the lowest owned pitcher, who in theory is the worst pitcher, or else his ownership would be higher, right? So like Jason Alexander has a value of 1.35, which is much lower than all the other pitchers here. It is that projection and that value that is driving his ownership down. If I set him to 33%, well, now I'm actually taking a really big stand for him. And then by limiting somebody like Sonny Gray to only 33% of my lineups when he's 66% owned, I'm taking a really big stand against him, right? So sometimes playing pitchers evenly isn't like what you think it is, like having 33% of Gill and 33% of Gray are different because one's 66% owned and one's 54% owned, right? So now your leverages are different. So just keep that in mind when doing this, more as like a word of caution, but this is how I would try and achieve that. All right. So this leads us into the second question we're going to tackle. Say, hey, Andrew, is it possible to create this under metrics at all? Thanks. So basically a custom metric that they're calling score cash with projection, make cut percent, 1 minus the standard deviation, and then ownership, and then all these different weights. So you can definitely do this. So like, let's say we went over to golf for today. Now, the only thing that's not in here by default is the 1 minus sigma, which is like the 1 minus standard deviation. So you're actually going to have to calculate that, which we can do and upload as a custom metric. So first off, let's download the player table. Okay, we open this up. So we come into the player table, we scroll over, and then maybe we're going to use this like DK standard deviation column, okay? Well, usually if you're doing like 1 minus, you want this to be a decimal, like 0 point something. So I'm assuming they want this rounded over 2 decimals. I'm kind of guessing here. So what I would do is to equal this divided by 100, I think. Yeah. Okay, cool. My math skills are still good. So we're going to call that score cash. All right. So I've added a column and I've converted the standard deviations basically into like a percentage by making it 0.21 here. So I'm assuming 21%, and then I'm making it 0.21 as like a decimal. All right. So I just save that. And then I go back to SaberSim. I go to upload. I'm going to go and grab that CSV. Okay. So I go to golf for today. And then I'm going to go find that column. Okay. Score cash. So then I'm going to use add custom column. It's already called score cash. It just takes the title. Okay. I click save. I don't need to do anything with naming it. All right. So now it's here, right? Now I have this custom column in the app. So the reason we need it as a custom column is it has to be a custom column before we can filter by it. All right, so cool. So we have the data in there. I'm going to go to lineup pool 500. Just kick off a quick and easy build. And then we're going to work on creating this custom metric. All right. So these lineups are finished building. They are loading. So first off, if you're using custom metrics and portfolio mode do not mix. Okay. So we have our recommended advice of filter by your custom metrics and then sort by portfolio and let the builder decide what to play. That way you filter down your pool based on your metric. If you want to use your metric to grade lineups, you can switch from portfolio to uniques, and then you get this rank by column that appears. So let's say I want to actually grade my lineups by this. Okay. So I go to add metric. Now we're going to start plugging these in. So we're going to go projection, sum, let's say value. We're going to add a weight of 0.45. Second one was made cut percent. There it is, made cut percent. Sum value 0 times 0.25. Score cache, which you guys could see it if the fifth's gone, right? So my custom column, I have my score cache here. Okay, cool. Sum value, add a weight, 0.1. And then a negative weight on ownership, negative 0.1. And then we do my own sum value. And this would be it, right? So 0.45, pull that back up. 0.45 times projection, 0.25, make cut percent, 0.1 times our 1 minus sigma, and then negative 0.1 times sum own. So that is how you would do the custom metric. Then you can just save that. You can rename it. And then now that you've made it, and it's just my metric here, I can choose it in the rank by. And then now SaberSim is going to use that to grade my lineups. Follow up to that one, forgot to add when looking at normalized versus max scale value variables. Am I supposed to read those as one being from 0 to 100 scale versus being 100% of the actual variable? Okay, so in terms of normalized versus max scaled means that the highest value this variable can have is 100. So like, let's say that you have like some type of score here. And so like we'll do sum projection, right? Okay, so the sum projection of these lineups is like 527, 526, right? You see the projection over here. If you use max scaled, that means that the highest value this variable can have is 100 no matter what. So even if I do 0.45 times 500, that's still like somewhere above 200 points, right? We're cutting it a little less than half. It would only get a score of 100. Now normalize would give 100 to the highest projected lineup, and then every lineup under would get like a little bit lower, like 99.8, 98.7, 97.6, and down and down and down. So that is the difference between these two. All right. A couple follow-ups. When using the new portfolio feature, how do I set it up so that some contests use different sort metrics? For example, say I want one contest to use ROI, but for a different one, I want it to use Saber Score. Okay, so a couple ways to do this, right? Number one is set up different templates for different types of contests, right? Maybe you are somebody who says, I want my 20 maxes and 150 maxes to use portfolio, but then I want my single entries to use SaberScore, right? Simple example. What I would do is I would set up different templates. So like first one could say, okay, create a group for each contest. And I would add a requirement for my entries, say greater than, and I would say 19, right? This will capture 20 maxes and above, and then set it to diversity portfolio. Then what I could do is set up another one that says my maybe max entries equals 1, and then set this to uniques, and then set this to SaberScore. Right now, all of your single entries are going to use SaberScore. I was talking about doing this with cash games too. Somebody was asking me, right? So like I could say, hey, if type is, multiplier, maybe like double ups, triple ups, then use projected score, right? You could do other things, right? We were talking about like changing all of the entrants to 2 for your cash games. So then you could do like, okay, entrance equals 2. And then when entrance equals 2, I want to rank by projected score, right? This would be a quick way of creating groups for all of your cash games. That way they auto sort by projection, right? This is a really good way of doing that. This way if you had like more than one cash game, it would give each cash game the same lineup. Maybe you want a different lineup, but you want all high ranked lineups, right? Okay, well then create a group for all of my contests that equal 2, and then maybe you have 10. Now you're going to get the 10 highest projected lineups across those 10 contests within one group. So there's a lot of customization that can happen here. But I would figure out what is specific about the contest you're entering, and how can you differentiate it from your other contests where you want portfolio versus the one where you want SaberScore. And then you should be able to use the requirements to get the result you're looking for. Don said, hello, can you help me out with the late slate in MLB if you don't mind? Yeah, I think that is a good opportunity to just do a slate demo for that slate here and talk a little bit more about it. All right, so we're pulling up the night slate, right? 6-game slate coming up here. I'm sorry. There's 6 teams on the slate. It's 3-game slate. All right, so let's go fresh build here. All right, notice minimax salary very, very wide for these slates. I might bump it up just like a little bit. I don't know if we need to play that low salary lineups. I think that, 46K is still low enough for sure. And then 3-game slate, it's hard. You could turn on don't use batters against opposing pitchers if you want. You could leave it off. I'm probably going to leave it off here. I think it's okay. What if we play Sonny Gray, but then, maybe we have like a lineup of Brandon Lowe or Brandon Lau, and then he hits like a home run. Sonny Gray pitches really good. Those things happen, right? So I'd prefer to let those lineups that have a pitcher against a batter come up as the sim determines it's like optimal for this type of contest. Maybe one thing I would do is like guard against it a little bit, which I don't even think you need this, but this is like something you could do. You could set up a rule where it's like, hey, if at least one team's pitcher, then use no more than one on the opposing team. I'll move my face out of here. No more than one batter on the opposing team. So like, hey, I am willing to play up to one batter from the opposing team against the pitcher, but I am not willing to play 2. I don't really know if it would even give you 2, but it is a rule that you could set as like a safety net and like a kind of a guardrail to make sure that you get lineups that you like. So that's kind of an interesting rule to mess around with. But anyways, outside of that, we're going to kick off this build. This is a really good time to upload your entry file, which is this green button up here in the top left, just telling SaberSim which contests you are playing for this slate. Very helpful if you're using contest sims, and then also just helps you to fill your entries very, very fast across all subscriptions. All right. So we built 500 lineups. Sims kicking off. Let's just say we're building 20 lineups for this night slate. All right. So sim is running. Diversifier is running. We are going to use portfolio mode here. Okay, I'm going to sort by exposure. I like to view my lineups in the expanded view. All right, cool. So we got some aggregate metrics, projection, ROI. We're sorting by exposure. Now it's really time to just like kind of analyze this, right? So I would start with stacks. Still seeing a lot of correlation, at least a 4 stack in every lineup. Very, very similarly projected teams. Like all of the teams are within half a run of each other, and we're very spread out, right? So that seems good. 25 to 45% of every team. A little bit more St. Louis, but nothing standing out too much here. And we have like St. Louis 2, St. Louis 3. Houston 5 stacks are more than our St. Louis stacks. Houston 4 stacks. So yeah, we have St. Louis 45%, but Houston, I'd say we're a little bit more in favor of them just because they're in our bigger stacks, the 4s and the 5s at the highest exposure. So good to look at these like individual columns too. Make sure you disagree with what the builder's giving you. All right, so coming to the players table, going to look at my pitchers. Very, very flat. Playing 5 pitchers. I don't think we're playing Jason Alexander. And he was really bad value. You know what I mean? I come in here, I sort by value, and he's like by far the lowest value pitcher on the slate. So I'm okay not playing him. That's like totally fine with me. I agree with the builder here. Some of our positive leverage is coming from these higher projected, higher value guys. That makes sense. Go over to batters. All right. Top exposure, Newt Bar, highest leverage, Newt Bar, kind of by far. One hitter leading off for St. Louis. I don't think he always leads off. I think usually Brendan Donovan leads off. So maybe like getting like kind of a spot start, a little bit lower salary. And so I think that the builder likes this value play. He looks like one of the highest value hitters. One of the higher. He's like 2.21, not the highest for sure. But I'm okay with it. I don't feel too bad about it. Probably being used as like a one-off in some other lineups as well. But overall, just like making sure I agree with it. Yeah, a couple of one-offs here, one-off or 2 stack there. But you could lower them. I'm okay with it personally. Outside of that, I don't see a lot to change here. I would be pretty comfortable with that. And I wouldn't feel the need to make any more adjustments, but you totally can if you want, right? If you want to lower Newt Bar, it's like too much exposure for you. Cool. Set a max exposure and get him down there. But overall, I like this. I'd be happy with it. I'd be ready to save these and upload them to my contest. Eric, worst investment of my life. I just paid money to give away more money. The stack that gets shut out and the pitchers that get absolutely shelled. 100%. The good thing is they're unowned, so I'm alone at the bottom. Yeah, I mean, look, man, if you're struggling, like I feel you for sure. The best thing that you could do, reach out to our team, either the question mark up here, write us a message, or email us, support@sabersim.com. We do build reviews for customers. So like, hey, I'm really struggling, kind of can't figure out what's going wrong. I would love for one of your coaches to review my builds, right? One of our coaches will go in and we will look at your post-contest sims. We will look at your builds. We will look at all the different things that you're doing, record you a video and just say, hey, man, based on everything I'm seeing, we think you can make these adjustments to help improve your results and kind of get you moving back in the right direction. So we are here for you guys. We want to help you get better and we want to help you win. And a build review is a great place to start if you're kind of struggling and kind of don't know why. So that would be my best recommendation. All right. Looks like we are all caught up here with questions in Discord and YouTube chat. Appreciate you guys tuning in. I'll be back tomorrow, 4 p.m. Eastern for our next show. So until then, everybody take care. Good luck. Thanks. Bye.